For our daily cancellation today, we turn our attention to an article from one of our local outlets here in Tennessee called The Tennessean. In a recent piece, The Tennessean extends an invitation to us that none of us asked for or wanted. Headline is, Meet Nashville's trans, queer, Latinx, neurodivergent theologian. Now, you'll notice already that this headline is nominally 6 words long, and yet after the second word, Nashville, it takes a 3-word detour into utter gibberish and doesn't return to reality and words that exist in the dictionary until the end with the word theologian. Everything in between is abject nonsense. This gives you an idea as to what to expect as we venture into the text of the article itself. It begins, Robyn Henderson-Espinoza is the only Nashville-based trans, queer, Latinx, neurodivergent public theologian that they know. Wait, that who knows? That they know? Sounds like there's a sentence cut off here, or maybe the author of this piece had a stroke while they were typing. But it turns out that, of course, the they refers to Robyn Henderson-Espinoza, who, despite having 3 names, is only one person, but still goes by they anyway. And it continues, I don't know anybody like me, Henderson-Espinoza, who uses gender-neutral pronouns, said in an interview. Yet it was only recently when Henderson-Espinoza, 45, got to know their better self, or rather, got to know their self better. Got to know their self better. Okay. Such as the diagnosis that they are on the autism spectrum. Amid this eventful period in their life, Henderson-Espinoza also made time to write reflections about their personal experience and its connection to larger socio-political events, which they turned into a book. Henderson-Espinoza's new book, Body Becoming, A Path to Our Liberation, released on Tuesday. Somehow I don't feel a threat from that book to Johnny the Walrus. I don't think that I have to worry about that making it into the top 10. I must again, though, point out here that the correct gender-neutral pronoun for an individual entity is it. So if you're really neither male nor female, and yet you're a single person, then you are an it. But Robyn, just like every other supposed gender-neutral person, doesn't want to use it because that sounds dehumanizing, which it is. But rejecting the binary of female and male is by its nature dehumanizing, as you are rejecting the very human nature which declares that there are only males and females. These people want to have their dehumanized cake and eat it too. Robyn says that she, and I think this is a female, but I'm taking a bit of a shot in the dark here. She is, unlike anyone she knows, incredibly unique. I don't know anybody like me. Now, that's obviously the point of all this. The accumulation of meaningless identity labels is a narcissistic attempt to present yourself as more complex, more interesting, deeper, more profound than the average person. And yet it has precisely the opposite effect. But she's not done claiming labels. It continues, Henderson-Espinoza, an ordained Baptist minister who has a PhD in philosophy, knew for many years that they were transgender, but didn't explore what that meant to them until 2017 when they moved to Nashville from California. Henderson-Espinoza found a Vanderbilt physician who was overseeing Henderson-Espinoza's hormone therapy. Then in 2018, Henderson-Espinoza learned that they're on the autism spectrum. It never occurred to me that my brain worked differently, Henderson-Espinoza wrote in their new book. I realized that my socialization in the church and academy had been through neuronormative people who didn't understand my body or my mind and had curated such a disconnection from my body. Wait, if you don't identify as either male or female, then what are the hormones supposed to achieve exactly? Meanwhile, Robyn, addicted to the self-satisfied high she got from accruing the labels trans, non-binary, Latinx, decided to go back for another hit, adding neurodivergent to the list. As has happened with so many other things, the category of mental illness has now been fully subsumed by the LGBT alphabet crew. This is why LGBT activists will so often list their mental health conditions as if the conditions themselves are sexual identities. And like sexual identities, mental illness has been made into something trendy, desirable, another way to set yourself apart. The made-up term neuronormative has the same scoffing tone and dismissive ring to it as the made-up term cisgender. And that's the other thing about all of the obsessive labeling that leftists do to themselves. While labeling themselves, they also put labels on the rest of us that we did not choose or agree to or consent to. Cisgender is not a term that any so-called cisgender person chooses for themselves. It's a label that trans activists place on us. Now, God forbid we label them in a way they don't like, but, they can label us all they want. Those are the rules they want us to play by anyway, but I refuse. Also note in that last segment, again, the sheer volume of absolute certifiable nonsense, especially the last sentence. I realized that my socialization in the church and academy had been through neuronormative people who didn't understand my body or my mind and had curated such a disconnection from my body. Curated a disconnection from your body? How is a disconnection curated? And how can someone else curate your own disconnection, whatever that means? What in the hell are you babbling about? Well, Robyn does quite a lot of babbling, it turns out. This is common of leftists generally, but especially those who identify themselves as pastors and theologians. Those two labels, as it happens, are the most absurd of all the titles Robyn gives to herself, as evidenced by this clip of Robyn Henderson-Espinoza, originally posted to Twitter by a group called Q Christian Fellowship, which says in its bio that its mission is to cultivate radical belonging for LGBTQ plus people, and it achieves this, apparently, through incoherent prattle like this. Listen.
The not yet is the imaginal space of becoming. The not yet is in the space of a realized utopia. The not yet is the Christian message that we must embody in critical and creative ways to steward a narrative that calls us into being human with one another again. That is the kind of hope I want to invite us to embody. That is the kind of queerness that I hope we can practice. One that reimagines language and practice and narratives that can be midwifed and stewarded through the imaginal. That is hope to me. That is the kind of power I think we have as a collective of believers, of doubters, of Christians, as those who are becoming.
So this is like the leftist version of speaking in tongues, because no part of what you just heard qualifies as English. Neither does it qualify as Christian. I mean, it is religious, no question, but this is not the Christian religion you're hearing there. Just to quote one section of it, she says, "That is the kind of queerness that I hope we can practice, one that reimagines language and practice and narratives that can be midwifed and stewarded through the imaginal." Oh, okay. Now, if you listen to that and you hear all the big words and think, well, maybe I'm just too stupid to understand what she's saying, then you're having exactly the reaction that people who speak this way want you to have. And you're also wrong. You are not too stupid. Your failure to understand gibberish is not a shortcoming on your part. This is just how smug leftist academics speak, because for one thing, they would rather dazzle you with their faux intelligence than actually communicate like normal human beings. They don't want to be understood. They want to be admired. When it comes to leftist ideas in particular, this is especially the case. They hide behind this impenetrable fortress of scholarly sounding because, along with wanting to impress you with what it usually turns out to be a pretty middling intellect, they also want to disguise their true meaning, such as there actually is any true meaning at all. Whatever they're trying to say, if they're trying to say anything, they prefer to keep it safe, locked inside a box of gibberish and buzzwords. The hope is that you'll just nod confusedly and go along with whatever it is they want you to do or whatever direction they want to take you. They want you to scratch your head and shrug your shoulders and say, okay, sure, let's be stewarded to the imaginal space of queerness. Sounds good. What they don't want you to do is stop and say, wait a second, what exactly are you trying to say? Can you speak like somebody who isn't suffering from a severe concussion and just put it in plain English for me? They don't want that, because if there is any meaning underneath all this nonsense, it's something quite horrifying. Something that they clearly don't want you to see or understand. And that is why finally, Robyn, the Latinx trans-binary divergent theologian, is today canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.